today I'm delighted to welcome Flavian Obiero to the Farm Ed podcast. Flavian is also known as the Kenyan pig farmer, and today we are going to be talking about pigs and in particular pastured pigs. So what I'd like to know, Flavian, is how did you get into pig farming? Why pigs?
I'd say first experience with pigs was on my uncle's farm back in Kenya when I was, say, 11 or 12. And he had just pigs indoors, and I used to just go and help out. Back then, people could feed waste, so we'd go around collecting waste from my auntie. And I just liked the smell of pigs, weirdly. Like the smell of their manure mixed with like the cooking waste feed and whey or whatever. I enjoyed that smell, and I think from then, the next time I worked around pigs again was when I did work experience on a farm. And yeah, I just liked how sort of inquisitive they are. They're not easily intimidated compared to, let's say, sheep or cows, and also from an economical perspective, a pig is pregnant for 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, whereas sheep is 5 months and you're probably going to get 1 or 2 mainly. A cow is 9 months, you probably get 1 or 2 if you're unlucky, whereas pigs, you're waiting less than 4 months and you've got 10 or even more. So yeah, from an economical point of view, that, and also I like pork, so
Yeah,
that's how it started.
That's a very good reason. So now you've got Tynefield Farm.
Yeah.
You've taken on the tenancy there. Can you tell us a little bit about the pig enterprise that you're setting up there, and also what else you've got on the farm?
So we've been on the farm now just under a year, 10 months now, and because I've always worked in pig farming, I knew that was going to be our main enterprise, but I also knew that having a farm that's not just like a farm with buildings and an indoor pig unit, it's outside. I need to learn and incorporate other bits of farming. So we've also got goats, we've also got sheep. We have a catering business where we do hog roast, so using our pigs to do hog roast. We're planning on setting up a butchery to do our own butchery, because butchery is again something else that I've shown an interest in and I enjoy. I don't see it as work, which is probably not a good thing, because I'd spend a lot of time butchering and not worry about it. I need to spend time with family as well. So so my thinking is, if I've got the butchery on farm and I can't sleep because the baby is noisy, I just go down and I don't know, cut up some meat.
That sounds like quite an unusual way of relaxation, but it's...
I find it so therapeutic. Like, I do a day and a half at a local farm shop as a butcher, so I'm an apprentice. And when I'm butchering, so of late I started doing beef, so I only ever did pork, and then when I started working in this place, it sort of pushed me to do different things. So I'll do lamb, I butchered a goat the other day to send to a friend in London, and I started doing beef, and it's just so therapeutic. Like, I like the farming side and look after the animal to the best of my ability when they're alive, and then when they change from being an animal to a carcass or food, doing that just as well as you did when they're alive as well, I think is important to me, because it determines the quality of it, whether it's just appearance or, let's say, how it's aged, that's quality there, and then how it eats as well. So I like cooking, like with hog roasting. So being able to do the whole process from A to Z, I enjoy that. It's time consuming, but at least I'm enjoying it while I'm doing it.
And it's showing that same care and attention, isn't it? You're rearing the animal, you're sort of rearing it to slaughter, and then showing that same care and attention to the carcass, and really valuing it. And it's such a skill, isn't it, butchery?
Yes,
I think a lot of people don't realise how much skill is involved.
I remember during lockdown, when they were talking about key workers and low skill, high skill, and I remember there was a member of parliament who's not there anymore, a minister who's not minister anymore, said that butchery is a low skilled job. And it's just, when you see how long it takes to learn something, and then you've got to do it properly every time to the same standard, and then even finding butchers that have done it for 20, 30 years, they're still learning. It's the same as farming. You can't say you've completed farming, because there's always going to be like a cardboard frame in there. Not all animals are the same. Some animals, when you're butchering, their bones have grown differently, let's say, or they've got deformity, whatever it is. Each carcass, you could do it. If you got different conformations, some have too much fat, some have little fat, and all sorts. So yeah, I think I enjoy the fact that it's a profession or a job that you can keep learning every day.
And do you think, with the farming side, by doing the butchery, butchering your own animals, seeing them in the sort of carcass form and cutting that up, that can sort of help improve your farming methods as well, because you're seeing the detail at the end of it?
Yes, yeah, I think so, because when it comes to the processing stage, I say like with the pigs we have, they are traditional breeds, so they're prone to being overly fat, as the general market states. So when it comes to processing a pig that's too fat, rather than seeing the fat as a waste, because we're going to be doing cured meats, I can use the fat for salamis, because you don't want to have too much fat in a sausage, but you can have a lot of fat in a salami in comparison. So it's just understanding the different parts of an animal you can use. So annoyingly, it makes you look at the pigs differently when they're walking around.
Yeah.
You can literally use the whole animal on a pig. There's always a saying that some people eat pigs. You can eat everything on a pig apart from the oink.
Yeah,
or the
scream. Yeah. And with your other animals, so you've got your sheep and your goats.
Yeah.
Are you trying to sort of use all parts of them as well?
Yes, yeah. So annoyingly, in this country, things like getting like goat head, back, and feet or whatever, the intestines is not really allowed. Whereas where I'm from in Kenya, all that stuff is eaten.
Mm.
So if we could get that back, there are people that ask me, can I have goat head to make goat head soup? My dad used to cook goat head like every Saturday. I've got the smell etched in my head. And so if that was allowed, that could be another way to do it, because with pigs, I get the trotters back. People buy that for soup. The head, actually, there's a restaurant in London recently that are going to start serving up half a pig's head.
Oh, really?
As a delicacy. And it's not just like a corner restaurant, it's a high-end restaurant, and they'll be serving up half a pig's head on their menu. So it is good to see chefs doing that as well, using our animal, because I think in this talk about eating less meat, and for me I think less meat, yes, but better quality meat as well. It's about valuing our animal, because I've slaughtered a pig before and it's not an easy thing to do. So where in today's society people are so removed from where the food comes from, if you actually were to look after an animal, which this pig I slaughtered I did, then slaughter it, then gut it, take the hairs off and make it into sausages, it humbles you different. And if everyone was to slaughter their own animal to eat, like how people do back home in Kenya, if there's a guest, 9 times out of 10, if you're living in the countryside, you catch a chicken and you slaughter it, feather it, whatever, and cook it. Not many people won't be eating as much meat as they do, but because you just go to a store and pick it up, you're not linked to it. And for me, because I value the animal so much as a living being, if I'm gonna slaughter it to eat it, I need to make use of all of it if I can. So skin, crackling, like the head, finding recipes to cook the whole thing, whether you're gonna make brawn, the cheeks could be guanciale for charcuterie, any excess fat, put it into salami. The bones could be used even in plants that sort of render animal intestines or whatever for energy. So there's so many things we can do, but society and powers that be and government, we seem to be picking and choosing what solutions we want to use for the problems that we've created ourselves as a species.
It's so true what you say about valuing it so much more when you've done that. I remember when I was out in New Zealand, I had to do that with sheep, and it means so much more.
Yeah.
Because you realise actually how sort of precious that life is, and you need to use every bit of it. I'm completely with you on that. So going back to your farm, the pigs aren't just for meat; they're also helping with the land as well.
Yeah.
So how's that going?
So yeah, it's going well. Good thing about the breed we have, Tamworth, they've got quite long snouts, so they use that to full effect with digging up. And because the land of where we are is so compacted from being used for horses mainly. We sort of need the pigs to dig it up as much as possible, get a bit more air into it, and put more life into the soil, because a lot of the fields I've not seen an earthworm at all.
Oh, wow.
And that's not a good sign. I think I've seen 3 in 61 acres, so that's not good. So I'm hoping the fact that the soils hardly have anything in them over the years, it will improve the biodiversity in the soil.
Yeah, and so I like also how you're integrating your goats and your sheep in with that as well. They've all got their job.
Yeah, and I think for me, looking at farming from I want to say holistic, sounds quite cliche, but looking at it overall rather than just pointing at parts of it. And I know money is very important, we all need it in society that's been created. But I think if I look at it from the point of what the animal's doing and their meat as a byproduct, it makes it so much more fulfilling for me, because it's easy just looking after an animal, feeding it and slaughtering it. That's just, anyway, after doing it 13, 14 years, I find that boring. Whereas now, having a field with grass that's not good quality, and knowing I can move the sheep around it, and when you look back where they've been, where there was bare ground, and then after they've been there, it's now green, you can see actually the sheep have done something. Or seeing the pigs come into a bit of ground, digging it up, and then when you go back again, there's more than just grass there. It's all sort of good job satisfaction, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's treating the farm as a whole as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Like everything's adding to that whole, everything's working to improve it, and then in the end, then hopefully you'd be able to have more stock on it because it'll be more fertile, and then it just, everything working together.
Looking at nature as well is that you don't just get one thing. Even in a hedge, there's not just one thing. So when you go to the way we farm nowadays, if you just want to farm, I don't know, pineapples, it's just pineapples in one field or whatever. The way we're trying to do it, because we've got a woodland as well, there's birds there, there's foxes, annoyingly. I think everything has a purpose where it is. So like, you could look at a hedge and think, oh, there's too much hawthorn in there, but that's acting as a barrier to stop animals getting through, because it's got thorns on it. Goats can nibble on the leaves, and also it's providing shade in the summer for when sheep or pigs are there, they just go lay underneath. So it saves me money on having a structure as shade. So there's so many things you can sort of use that are already existing in nature to make it work with you. And I think with them, I want to do so many things and I don't have enough time. If I work with nature, I'm spending less time actually doing extra things that the animal can do, like with the goats and hedges. I don't have to get a hedge cutter and trim it. I just let the goats out and they eat the hedges, or I don't have to get a topper and top a field and just put the sheep in. And we had a bit of land which we were grazing some of our sheep, and the owner let the sheep into her garden, and the grass is pristine. Yeah. She always eats it to a point, and then she lets them out, then they come back in. So it's little things like that are probably unconventional, but if they make my life easier and I'm enjoying it, why not?
If they work, that's the whole thing.
Exactly. If it works, it might not look pretty to some, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. It might not look pretty, but if it's working, I'm doing it.
And I think there's so much we can learn from nature, isn't there? Like nature, the diversity is key. You don't find any monoculture in nature, and everything sort of works symbiotically with whatever else it's with. So I think there's been a lot of like fighting against nature, trying to push it back, and it tends to always win. So that's such a good point. On that sort of like some people saying like, oh, that's not the right thing, or that's not the way to do it, and things like that. How have you found the sort of knowledge sharing network within the, especially like the pastured pig community?
I'd say obviously coming from a commercial side, which is quite, from the name, is very money driven, because you sort of big operations, a lot of money's been put in, and pigs are quite, probably 60-70% of a pig production or pig setup is feed, which you're buying in. So a lot of it is quite driven money, which I learned a lot from, but I just didn't enjoy it as much anymore. And with as with money, even in other conversations, money isn't really a topic people talk about a lot, even amongst friends or family. Talking about money is such a tricky subject.
Yeah.
Whereas I found with the smaller scale pastured pigs community, it's the knowledge sharing is much better. Whether it's going to change on the commercial side or not, I don't know. And also because commercial side, a lot of people are in contracts, so you're bound by, you can't just speak up. Whereas a lot of people on the pasture side are self-employed, so you haven't got anyone you have to answer to, like myself. So I enjoy the knowledge sharing. Like if I've got a question, I don't have to pay a consultant to come and tell me. I can just ask another farmer. And 9 times out of 10 they're doing it, or they've done it. They can tell you, I did this in this field, I made a mistake. Whereas if you're talking to someone that's reading off a bit of paper, not saying the consultants don't have a place, because they do, but a lot of the time I would rather ask a fellow farmer that's done it or looking to do it, so we learn together rather than being told like I'm at school.
Yeah.
And which is something I struggle with a little bit with, even let's say some of these schemes put in by government, because 9 times out of 10 a lot of the people coming up with these schemes have never done it. So you're being told to do something in a field XYZ to get this money, but I'm thinking the amount of money I'm going to get and the stress I'll have trying to do this stipulated way of doing it, I'd rather just go work harder and earn money elsewhere.
And it's also every farm is so different, isn't it? Like, so it's hard to like do a one size fits all system.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
I don't think it works. Like, you can't tell the weather to be a particular way one day and not the other day. So I think it's definitely about finding ways of making it work for yourself. And if you can share bits of knowledge with other people, it makes us all better then. It's the whole thing about, a rising tide raises all boats. Yeah, I think that is something that a lot of people need to get on. All this cards close to our chest thing doesn't help anyone. Because looking at it actually on the commercial side, like supermarkets know that. They know that farmers don't share information enough. They know that farmers aren't always together. So if, let's say, 2 of us, we say, okay, let's say we want to get paid £5 per kilo for whatever product, and then the supermarket comes to you and says, if you give me £4.90, or if I pay you £4.90, it's, you take the whole contract, you don't have to share with Flavian, you take it, bang, they're winning then. And that's exactly what's happening now. People can't come together because everyone, whether it's people being individualistic or what, I don't know, but you can't get people together to say, okay, if they're not paying us this money, cost of production, whatever, we're not doing it. And maybe one day, if farmers work together to that extent, maybe we're gonna command more respect from retailers. But until then, we're gonna get mugged off year and year, and it will never change.
And one thing you've been doing quite a lot of is direct selling, so farmers markets, to restaurants, to your hog roasts and things. How have you found that? Like, obviously it's quite a labour intensive way of doing it. Do you get other benefits from it as well? So sort of, I think getting relationships with customers.
The direct contact with customers. So let's say like with markets, there's a market I did actually twice. So I did one in this autumn and one in the winter. And same people coming back saying, oh my God, that's the best pork I ever had, I want some more, blah, blah, blah. And then also some other people, like with goat, I sent some goat to a lady in London. She sent me pictures that she's cooking, and she said, oh, actually next time, do you mind cutting the pieces a bit short, a bit smaller, more evenly, not too much on the bone. And this is all feedback I'm taking back, because goat has quite brittle bones. So I'm thinking in future I might even invest in a bandsaw rather than having to hand saw it, because the bone's so brittle. So little things like that, you wouldn't get that if you're supplying a supermarket, because it just goes into a warehouse and that's it. And also the thing about selling directly is someone can come to a farm and I'm like, okay, these pigs are soy free, free range, hardly any antibiotics because it's an extra cost and they're healthy, they don't need it, blah, blah, blah. People can come and see the pig. So even with assurance schemes, again, they've got a place, but personally, after using them, working in other places, I see them as tick boxes, because we need to, if you're going to keep animals, it needs to be high welfare anyway. Why have we got tiers of welfare? And when you're talking about the welfare, it gets to times where someone says, oh, that costs too much, the customer won't pay. So do we care about the money or do we care about the welfare? Because you don't hear people saying, oh, I want to keep a dog, but I can't afford this. So like, dogs are treated like kids, so why can't we do that to farm animals? So when money is involved, welfare goes away. So in my opinion, we can't say welfare only comes in if people pay. No. We either have welfare or not. Same with the environment. We're not saying if you pay me, I'm going to look after the environment. If you don't, I'm going to wreck it. No, you either look after it or you don't. So money should come into it. And on the flip side of that, people have been, I don't want to say groomed, but people have been subconsciously trained by the retail system to think food costs such a low price. Because if you think over Christmas, some supermarkets were selling veg for like 15p a kilo. It's not 15p a kilo now. Why was it 15p a kilo in December? It's not that there was an abundance of some of this stuff. So it's these tricks of, you come in, spend 15p a kilo or you veg with a fiver, you've got enough veg to feed 10 people, but then they're stinging you in other bits and then saying that farmers want more money. It is all a mess. It's all a mess. So I think a lot of it is down to intention. What is the intention? If it's just to make money, then just go out and make money. But if you actually care about the welfare of the animal, if you care about the environment or care about what we're eating, what you're putting into people's sort of bodies and people being healthy, then let's do that. But if we're going to start worrying about money and saying this costs too much, I'm not doing it, then you might as well just not bother.
It's finding a way that you can make a financially viable model with having the highest animal welfare and the highest environmental standards, isn't it?
So yeah, and my thing is, because again you get into like the social aspect of it, and I can't not look at it from a social side, because I wasn't brought up in this country, came when I was 15, and I've got a scale of people that don't have much money, people that have a lot of money in my family and friends circle back home. And our ethos, myself and Nikki, my partner, is that if what we produce, our parents can't afford it, then what are we doing? Because there is this notion that if something is expensive, if it's in a farm shop, it's better. No, it's not. It's money and quality it's not synonymous. And then secondly, I don't think just because a product is good doesn't mean it has to be extortionate. Because why do you have to be rich to eat good? Like people that, let's say, I don't know, a universal credit, or people that can't afford certain foods, why do they have to eat the lower quality stuff? Because like, we're all human, aren't we? So why should someone with more money drink clean water and someone else drink out of a puddle on the road? So for me, it's not easy to be like that, because if you've got a market, people want to pay X amount because they have the money and you'd want to tap into it, but then it goes away from my ethics of, but I know how much this costs me to produce. Why should I charge people? So it's such a fine balance. And I always share that to the customer. Look, this is how much it's costing me to produce. I want to make my money there and I want to invest back in the business so it's viable, so you can buy a product there and there and there. So let's work together. A perfect example, talking to a lady that sort of has a restaurant near me, wanted to buy belly pork. I was like, okay, a kilo of it is £15 a kilo, yeah. Or I can't sell that. I'm like, why is that? Well, I can buy it for $5.98 per kilo from the butchers. I'm like, that's fine. So this belly pork will be in a dish. The dish will probably be like 13 quid, 14 quid. The belly pork, you'll probably get about 6 or 7 strips off that belly pork. The amount of pork you get in that dish, that's 14, 15 pounds, probably like 3 or 4 cubes. How can you not make that pay? 15 pounds, just I do the catering side, so I can see that you should be able to make it pay. But then you think, okay, if you're paying $5.98 compared to 15, you'd rather compromise on your quality to make more money for what? So yeah, and I hope it doesn't come back and bite me on the backside this way of looking at things. But yeah, I think I might as well we've just started, so I might as well just start like that and keep it going.
Got to stick to your morals. And it reminds me so much of, it's a whole another conversation completely, but we had last year, I don't know if you've heard of Kimberly Wilson, nutritionist and psychologist, and she came in and did a talk all about the importance of nutrition on brain health and sort of different demographics of people and what food you can afford and how that affects your sort of development going forward. And it was absolutely fascinating, and it goes against that argument of cheap food, like everyone should have access to the same quality of food. So it's something I'm really, really interested in, but it's a very hard one to solve.
How much we spend on food compared to how much we spend on other things. Like I think we're some of the lowest percentage-wise of income on how much. I think it's less than 10% as a country we spend on food compared to everything else.
Rent and bills and
when you look at it from a sort of governmental point of view, if they cared so much about the health of people, they make it work that everything else in society, like TV license, that's like 14 quid a month. That you got council tax, it goes up every year. Still more potholes. Sometimes the bins don't get collected. So you're paying more for services non-existent. NI number for NHS. Waits have got longer and all sorts of things. So if deep down we care so much about people's health, we can tweak so many other things to make people pay more for their food. And I think that has a part to play in how people see food. Because you almost like you exist, you've got a nice car, you've got a nice house, you go on holiday 2 or 3 times a year, you go and eat to all these nice restaurants, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I've got to eat as well. I'm going to go shopping and buy the cheaper stuff. Forgetting that if you're not healthy, you're not going to enjoy any of the other stuff. So, yeah, a lot of it sounds like simple ABC, but it's so tiring.
No. Oh, I mean, you're completely, this is what I'm talking about all the time. So I think we might actually need to have another conversation just on this subject. I could talk for hours on it. But I think one thing I'd like to leave the listeners with is if there's anyone out there thinking of sort of starting out in farming, what would be the sort of advice you would give? Because obviously there's loads of different opinions out there and different voices. Is there anything
I think
say?
Farming is, like you have that phrase of a dog's not just for Christmas, blah, blah. Farming is not an impulsive thing. If you're going to do it and you're going to put money in it, you're going to have to do it properly. Be ready to be any elements, like the rain we've had. We've had like 3 alphabet storms within like a month. And I think rather than, if you're keen to get into it properly, rather than think about it, just do it. As long as you've got access to land, you don't have to own it. Like we're renting, and I used to think I had to own something, and I remember talking to someone and they said, why do you need to own something to make money out of it? So as long as you've got access to land, no matter how small it is, even an allotment, you could sort of grow stuff and sell bits locally or whatever, go to markets and have a store. Anyone that, if you can have a chance at growing things or keeping, and even in the garden, like my mum grows plants from milk bottles, like a 4-pint milk bottle, she'll cut it in half, put a tomato in there, and kale and all sorts of stuff. So if you have any space and you're keen to be outdoorsy, get involved. There's plenty of information out there when it comes to keeping animals. Obviously you've got to follow laws, having a county parish holding number and movement licenses, and with what's the word, if you move an animal from a place, the standstills. And, so you've got to follow all them, which are on the government website, or you can just search it on Google. It's quite a good time where internet is free. I think anyone keen to do it, stop thinking about it, just do it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of advice out there, like you say. There's so many like farmers and things that will give you, people already doing it, that will help you out, give you advice, and it's just asking and see what you find. I was wondering if you could tell me, where can people find you on social media, find out about your produce and what you're doing?
Social media, everywhere. Not so much on Facebook, but TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. mainly the Kenyan pig farm where you'll find me somehow. And then produce-wise, our website will be called Tynefield Farm, and once it's ready, it's in its final leg of being made. Once it's ready, I just put it on all my channels, and people can go have a look at what we're doing.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
So
such a good conversation, and I hope you can come back for another one soon.
Yes, I think we need a part 2.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.